Hello, hello. It is the very first Monday in, excuse me, goodness, I can't talk, January of 2025. And if this is your first time getting on the page since really beginning of last week, where I introduced what we were going to be doing for this year, then welcome to another new adventure that we're going through. And Mondays we'll be reading through the New Testament in the Passion Translation, obviously starting with the book of Matthew. And so we're going to read through our introduction to Matthew, and then I'll be right back on reading chapters, I believe it's 1 through 6. I got to double check on that, but reading chapters 1 through 6. But let's go ahead and read our introduction for the book of Matthew to start off our New Testament reading for the year. Introduction. At a glance. Author, Matthew, the former Jewish tax collector and disciple of Jesus. Audience, originally the Jewish Christian Church and the Jewish people. Date, AD 55 through 80. Type of literature, ancient historical biography. Major themes, gospel telling, Old Testament fulfillment, heaven's kingdom realm living. Outline, Jesus' birth and ministry preparation, chapter 1, verses 1 through chapter 4, verse 11. Jesus teaches his kingdom realm, chapter 4, verse 12 through chapter 7, verse 29. Jesus demonstrates his kingdom realm, chapter 8, verse 1 through 11, chapter 11, verse 1. Jesus is opposed, chapter 11, verse 2 through chapter 13, verse 53. Jesus disciples his disciples. Love that. Chapter 13, verse 54 through chapter 18, 35. Jesus marches to the cross, chapter 19, verses 1 through 25. Chapter 19, verse 1 through chapter 25, verse 46. Jesus dies, rises, and ascends, chapter 26, verse 1 through chapter 28, verse 20. About Matthew. 4 centuries of silence. Where was the promised Messiah? The Jewish people were waiting for the word of the prophets to come true, but they had prophesied that he would come. Then suddenly the angel Gabriel made an appearance to a teenage girl to announce his birth. Shepherds saw a brilliant angelic light show on the hillside. Wise men went out in search of him. The light of the star shone over his manger. Insecure Herod wanted to kill him. Satan cruelly tested him. The prophet John presented him to Israel. God anointed him with the power of the Holy Spirit. Then one day the king came into the synagogue and announced, "I'm here. I've come to set you free and to wash away sins and liberate those who love and follow me." We can thank God for Matthew, for in his gospel he presents our eternal king. Matthew means gift of Yahweh, and he lives up to his name. Thank you, Matthew, for the gift of your life and for what you have left for us in your gospel. Purpose. Matthew is a natural bridge between the Old Testament and the New because it has the most Jewish character. From the first verse to the last, Matthew establishes Jesus as a direct descendant of King David, preserving and fulfilling his royal line as the rightful heir, as well as a descendant of Abraham, the father of Israel. Furthermore, Matthew portrays Jesus as the new and greater Moses who not only upholds the Jewish Torah, but intensifies it. Not in a legalistic way, but in a spiritual way, because following his teachings is the way into his heavenly kingdom realm. It would be a mistake, however, to say there is only one purpose for this book. While one primary purpose is to communicate the Jesus story to the Jewish people, Matthew also means to communicate Jesus' story to us. One particular aspect of the Jesus story that Matthew wants to share is that Jesus is king of a heavenly kingdom realm. Mark and Luke also speak of God's kingdom realm, but Matthew focuses on how people behave as citizens of that realm, with Jesus as their loving king. Author and audience. It is believed that Matthew may have been the first apostle to write a gospel, and he possibly wrote it in Hebrew, Aramaic. Though some maintain that Matthew wrote his gospel after the destruction of the temple in AD 70, it's possible he wrote it anywhere from AD 55 to the mid-60s. He was a wealthy tax collector who profited greatly from his duty of representing Rome. And then one day the man from Galilee stood in front of him and said, "Come, follow me." There continues to be debate over the original language of Matthew's account. In AD 170, Eusebius quoted Irenaeus. These names are super fun to say. As saying, Matthew published his gospel among the Hebrews in their own language, while Peter and Paul in Rome were preaching and founding the church. Eusebius, Historia Ecclesiastica, goodness. The third, 24.5 through 6, and I assume V for volume 8-2. This, along with the numerous other quotations from church fathers, Origen, Jerome, Augustine, would mean that the original manuscript of Matthew's gospel was written in Hebrew. Regardless, it is without dispute that Matthew was a Jewish man who presented a Jewish king who now sits on the throne of glory for all people. Perhaps an unbiased look at the Hebrew and Aramaic manuscripts would yield further nuances of our Jewish heritage as believers in Yeshua, Jesus, and would strengthen our understanding of the inspired scriptures. You will find ample footnotes throughout the translation to assist you in your study. Major themes. Gospel telling. The word gospel doesn't simply mean good news. It is derived from the Greek verb evangelizomai. Euangelizomai, which means goodness. Woo! Here we go. Which means to preach the good news. In other words, Matthew is writing to tell us heaven's truths embedded in the earthly events of the man Jesus. Matthew isn't giving us dry theology, but sharing stories and teachings designed in such a way as to unfold the magisterial person of Jesus who embodies all of our theologies. Old Testament. As the first book of the New Testament, Matthew connects the past with the present and with the future. He quotes 60 times from the Old Testament, showing us that the New was enfolded in the Old, while the New Testament is the Old Testament unfolded and explained. I like that. How that is explained. The Old Testament is more central in Matthew than in any other gospel, both in frequency and in emphasis. If the Jewish story is always pointing forward, Matthew's gospel is its final act. It brings resolution to the Old Testament by presenting King Jesus and his kingdom realm and community as fulfilling their prophetic expectations. Parables. There are unique components to Matthew's gospel. For example, he records extensively the allegorical teachings of Jesus known as parables. 12 are detailed by Matthew, and 9 of them are unique to this account. He gives us 2 miracles of Jesus that are found nowhere else, the healing of 2 blind men and the miracle coin found in the fish's mouth. It is through these simple stories that the nature of both our King and his kingdom really come to life. Heavenly Kingdom Realm. Matthew brings us the realm of the heavenly kingdom and sets its virtue and reality before us. The phrase kingdom realm is used nearly 40 times as Jesus offers it to you and me, and Jesus is described as the king 14 times. This is the gospel of the king and his kingdom, but a different kingdom than even his followers expected. For the kingdom realm that Jesus ushered in would not liberate the Jewish people from oppression from the Roman government as they expected. We can define neither the king nor his kingdom ourselves. Instead, he offers not only Jews, but every person access to an eternal heavenly realm free from the consequences of sin and an oasis to refresh our lives. Kingdom realm living. Matthew's gospel isn't only about our loving king and his kingdom, it's also about his subjects who act and live within that kingdom. The church is the community of Christ's heavenly kingdom realm, and Jesus' Sermon on the Hillside is the final Torah of the kingdom realm. For Matthew, a godly lover, the righteous is someone who has chosen to submit to Jesus as king and whose life is lived in accordance with his ethics. The Gospel of Matthew will bring before your eyes the power and majesty of our loving King. Encounter the wonder of Jesus as you read this book. So good. And that was your introduction to Matthew, the book of Matthew, from the New Testament in the Passion Translation. So I will be posting, I will be posting that in the comments on Facebook, if that's where you're watching, or if you're watching on YouTube, I will be posting that in a separate post. It is Monday. What is the day? Oh, I took my watch off. Monday the 6th. That sounds correct, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, Monday the 6th. So they will be posted on here by Tuesday the 7th. But otherwise, I will be back in just a moment with Matthew. I believe it's chapters 1 through 6. I'm going to double check on that, but I believe we're going to be reading through Matthew chapters 1 through 6 next. See you in just a minute.